The Big Issue, breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello there, welcome to another fresh edition of your current affairs program on Leadership Television, The Big Issue. My name is Winifred Ugbebo, your host on the program, and of course I have an in-house analyst with me in the studio, Chibuzo Ukagwe. Chibuzo, it's a pleasure to have you on the program. It's been a long while. On today's big issue, we are looking at press GAG. Whither press freedom in democracy. This is the issue we are looking at. As you recall, Nigeria is facing trying times, undergoing trying times, especially as concerning the media. Journalists are being hounded from left to right in all the corners of the country by security agencies. This is what many analysts are saying that is akin to the era of the draconic former head of state, Sani Abacha, where press freedom was not free at all. So with me in the studio, Chibuzo, what do you have to say? And this on the backdrop on the fact that the Nigerian Guild of Editors had a meeting in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, over the weekend. They came up with a statement condemning the GAG, the press of press GAG. And that is not a situation whereby we have a viral democracy and press freedom is being threatened. It doesn't augur well for democracy. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, I think first and foremost, the Guild of Editors, like you rightly pointed out, succinctly captured the feelings of perhaps journalists and civil society, and even the broader Nigerian populace. In that very concise but punchy communique that they gave from Port Harcourt, which pointed clearly to the shrinking space of media practice in Nigeria. And I think that has been the buzzword since Tinubu came into President Bola Tinubu came into office, and perhaps even before he came, because we also saw this kind of situation play out in the last administration. So the buzzword so far has been the shrinking space for media practice, which of course does not augur well for any democratic society.
Okay. But however, what is so ironic about the whole scenario, because like you pointed out, it didn't start now, it started from the immediate past administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, what is striking or ironic in this GAG of press in APC government is the fact that they rode on this online, media, media hype, to get to power, and getting to the power, they want to stifle or muzzle the vehicle that brought them there.
So
why do you think this is so?
Absolutely, that captures the irony of what we have experienced since
9 years now.
For the most part of 9 years, because when this set of leaders were in the opposition, they latched on to the social, because that was the ascendance of the social media experience, and so they maximized it and they used it to the fullest. They were quite vocal and they were quite assertive and all of that. The press was, I was a victim also. If you remember, I was a victim of the other time, and we also condemned, what that administration did by failing to do the follow due process, prosecuting or and expressing grievance. But now we are seeing the same sets of persons who benefited from a robust free press, now trying to shrink that space and gag, or give little freedom for robust expression and expression of diverse views. And I don't think this is right, particularly for the President Bola Tinubu, who was a member of the NADECO establishment. And if you can recall, they were quite vocal. They were In fact, they did what some people call guerrilla democratic agitation, such that they were hounded out of the space, out of the Nigerian space. But they kept, trying to engage the minds of Nigerians with regards to, campaigning for the return of democracy. So it is ironic that somebody who benefited from that, not just benefited from the process, but helped in the vanguard of that process, appears to be allowing these practices that counter what people thought he represents to first time in his own administration.
What you just described is like somebody, what they say, using a ladder to climb up and get it to the top. He throws the ladder. Now, another ironic part of this whole press freedom issue is the fact that the Minister of Information and Orientation, incidentally, is a mediapreneur. And of course, the number one citizen of the country too is also a mediapreneur. This is something I'm trying to rally around. Why is this so? Because they also have a media empire that they are presiding over.
It's and
even if not directly now.
Absolutely. At the risk of holding brief for the minister, but when things like this happen, you would expect that a prompt and proactive action is taken by the government to ensure that it does not fester and create an impression that they robustly and as a unit encourage such things to happen. But what we have seen so far is the police,
police, military,
and the military, taking out and using the Gestapo style of whisking journalists away without following the due process. Now, we are not saying people, persons who feel aggrieved shouldn't, make complaints and seek redress. The complaint that we have as journalists is the failure to follow the due processes. There is a process that is laid out by the Constitution. So when people go about it in a way that indicates dictatorial tendencies, it sends first a psychological, messaging, and then it shrinks the space, and that is not healthy for the democratic state. But coming back to the minister, I think this whole thing playing out would afford them an opportunity to really, put a firm face to this and say enough is enough to these kinds of arbitrary actions by the security agencies.
Exactly, because by intervening we would maybe have put a stop to it, because we saw the first one, the one of former editor of Punch.
Yes,
Olatunji. He played that for weeks. He was held incommunicado by the military, who even denied initially that they were in custody of him. Was in their custody. And even with what played out, there was no censor, no intervention from the minister or the number one citizen.
In fact, as we speak, there are reports. I think I saw it in a major newspaper, in Vanguard, over the weekend. That so far we've had 11 of such cases.
Detained.
Yes. Not detained the right way. In fact, there shouldn't be a case of detention in any case. So it's not a matter of rightly detained or wrongly detained. Journalists that were detained, 11 so far under the scenes
just within 1 year.
Just within 1 year. But the striking thing is that, according to media, Global Rights, it's Global Rights. Global Rights gave a report summarizing the activities of the Buhari, the way Buhari handled the media in his 8 years, and it revealed that within that space of time, he had 189 journalists that were arrested and detained under the Buhari administration for that whole of 8 years. And so when you see this, it's more like a continuation, a tendency to continue with what the previous administration was doing, because it appeared the security apparatus had keyed into that sense of, okay, we can do it and we can get away with it. So that is why it is important that this administration, if it does not want to be dressed in the same clothes,
it was on that same 8 years. We also lost a former colleague to Salem. Remember how the AUJ waded in, called on they said they were not in custody, he was not in their custody. At the end of the day, he was tagged hit and run, that he was killed by hit and run driver, which obviously did not tally well with Nigerians.
So these are the things I think this administration pay attention to, so that if there is a pattern that has been, or an attitude that was inherited from the previous administration, that it does not become a part of this administration. That we have 11 cases so far under this administration is as worrisome, absolutely, is as worrisome as it can ever be. So I think it is important that they pay serious and close attention to what is really playing out.
Now, my worry is this: what is the implication, or what is the or are the implications for a vibrant democracy?
Now, of course, it's you. If you shrink the democratic space, it reduces the ability to see things from different perspectives, which affords any society a far broader approach to any particular issue. You know, you don't want to be pigeonholed into seeing things just through the eyes of a particular set of people. Now, on that, you can equally expand so much when you have that kind of system. If you look at the best systems, whether developmental or systems of government, the few times we've had leaps are when they decide to open up and allow for diverse ideas to flow in. So even the China you see today, it was when they started, although they are not fully open yet, but it was because they relaxed some of their, tendencies to gag the system that they began to have this kind of leap in. Because we can see the opposite. This is North Korea.
Yes.
What everybody points to is infrastructure and all of that. But you can never bring out the best from people if you don't allow them express the fullness of their potential. And the fullness of their potentials can be entailed in their ability to criticize and point to better ways of doing things. So that is why this whole thing playing out, the implication of it is far beyond the press, but about the healthiness of society.
Now, talking about the press, and we are still on the issue of press GAG. What about FOI? FOI is also another issue that has not also allowed freedom of the press, because even though the act exists, but the implementation is something altogether.
Well, I think it's still something and I say this with all sense of responsibility, that the media has tried as much as it can, to push the use of that window. But I think we can still do more. Because many people think it's just a media,
but even though
media too, but it is
the
open.
Art is there. The government now and its agencies are still not abiding with it, because we have the situation whereby even the editor of leadership would write to CAC to make some inquiries, and up to date, to my own knowledge, it was not granted. Even using citing
the FOI, dancing and playing around and all of that. But
perhaps these press that wouldn't have been there if the FOI was fully abided to by all parties.
I didn't get that.
For instance, I said this GAG, press GAG, wouldn't have been there. Or maybe they had the security agencies hounding journalists into detention if they were open to discuss issues, open to reveal, or what do you say about maybe information?
The thing is what we have noticed so far with the GAG situation, with the detention of journalists so far, are many cases of particular individuals, exploiting the police to rely on the Cyber Crime Act of 2015, which was knocked by the ECOWAS court when Sarah took it up, which was, and the ECOWAS court actually advised that it should be looked into. Now, what we've seen is some persons who feel aggrieved. Like in some of the cases we've seen, the one in Kwara, there was a case in Kwara. The person wrote about the situation in Kwara, the Kwara Polytechnic, and somebody felt, I've been hurt by this story. and the person just uses the police
Yes.
to go against the individual. Like the case we have seen also with Madu Honora.
That
It was not a government-related issue. So
and
so these are also
recently,
but where it becomes a government, why the government should pay attention to it is that it is happening with the use of state institutions.
Yes.
That is why the government should pay attention to this. Yes, they might say, oh, it is not government related and all of that, but they are using state institutions to execute. So there's a break. There's a break.
Well, Chibuza, we have to go on a break right now, but we are going to continue with the conversation when we return back after this break. Don't go away, we are coming back.
Brand.
Do you have Premier Times too? Also,
yes.
Did you read Premier?
Leadership for God and country. Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and country.
The program is The Big Issue. On this week's Big Issue, we are looking at press GAG, Whither press freedom in democracy. These are not the best of times for journalists as they are being hounded left and right by security agencies who are supposed to be neutral in the exercise of democracy. And before we went to break, Chibuzo, can you share more with us?
So like we were saying, these are the experiences we've seen so far.
Most of using security agencies now who are
individuals with who should also
even in case of Madu Honora's home, whether they said it was he a nurse that laid complaint?
You said there was a story that came out was a
reverend sister
abroad.
Yes.
And made a complaint down to, I think, was it Enugu or a boy?
I think so.
And all of a sudden they came to his house, Gestapo style, picked him without, following the normal processes. Because ideally, when you arrest, you have, I think, 40 hours. After which you have to take the person to court. And whatever you are doing, even when they are coming to, there should be a formal invitation. Not just bad into somebody's house in life.
And as a matter of fact, we are talking about Gestapo style. We had a report that an online medium also reported that even for a story that is yet to be published, the security agency has also written that they want to see the.
So these are the rascalities and the break and that breach in the approach to this thing. I think there should be,
and because people saw they have not been called to order, we are still going to be seeing more for a story that is not yet published. And I'm very, very sure the writer or the journalist may have called the people involved to get their own side of the story for balancing.
In fact, that
is being asked now to report to the.
That situation raises a lot of questions, a whole lot of questions altogether, because it is now clear that the police have already taken sides, on this particular matter. So I think there is a really need. If I have to make a suggestion, there is a serious need to have a robust interface between the police, the media, and the government, so that there's a sit down and these issues are properly and robustly tracked, so that we put a stop to it. This has continued for way too long. 11 cases are not, and these 11 cases are not as robust or elastic as you might think. Because there are incidences happening in other parts of the country that don't come to light people. Exactly. So I think there's an urgent need for a sit down, a robust engagement, a stakeholders gathering, where this issue can be picked as a one item issue and thoroughly addressed, so that everybody knows what part to play in this whole process. And I think ultimately it behoves on the president, like we said earlier, who benefited from the robustness of the press, to pay serious attention to this matter, because it could cast his administration in a light that will not be favorable to him without his knowing. In that sense, that would not in that sense. So I think that is something.
Don't you also feel that this act, this GAG of press, will also cower journalists into hiding? At the end of the day, we are going to journalists are going to be become endangered species. At the end of the day, everybody is going to be running for tobacco safety.
But I hope not. I seriously hope not. And that is why I started off by really praising the Guild of Editors for coming out boldly and strongly and saying, this cannot continue, this cannot happen, you cannot allow this happen after these many years of democracy. Other media outfits too have done the same thing. You've had, I'm forgetting that one now. A robust community was also issued by a good number of online platforms as to what is playing out. So the media is quite, active and engaged in ensuring that this thing does not continue. So I don't think the way it's going, I don't think that the media is going to be cowed by tendencies of this.
What you already talked about having a pally with the media, the security, and the government. Apart from this, what is the way forward? Because many critical Nigerians are of the opinion that this is just the beginning, that they don't see the way out, in as much as the president is more on the whole scenario, that he's going to embolden the security agencies more.
Well, I don't think he has. If the president means well, I think he should pay attention to it, because as we speak, international media is also paying attention to what has happened. I've seen a number of international reports, particularly with the case of the last guy, the Daniel case. I think that one went really viral, and there's so much commentary on that. The way in which security agencies went about it is not good. For a country that wants to get international buy-in, that wants to attract foreign investors and all of that, they don't have to start seeing this kind of situation play out in the country. So I think it would be in its own interest to ensure that stories like this don't become a staple.
Thank you so much, Chibuzo. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program. Well, viewers, this is where we come to the end of today's The Big Issue. We've been looking at GAG Press, Whither Press Freedom in Democracy. And of course, we've got the content to this program. My name is Winifred Dubois. Look forward to having you same time, same station on the program. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.